Welcome to our third interview in a series. Again, our goal with Diligent Plans is to provide subject matter experts who elaborate on a specific piece of crisis management, especially for leaders during this trying time. Today, I'm really excited to have our guest, Jim DiOrio. Jim DiOrio is, and I'm just going to hit some highlights, a West Point grad, spent 20 years in the FBI after serving out his military time. He was part of the crisis management for the FBI. He has a master's degree as well from LaSalle University, and just a world of experience. And I was part of an interview recently with Jim. He was kind of co-hosting. One thing that impressed me about him is, besides his resume, is he's willing to help, and he's running towards people in this time of uncertainty, which is a great testament to his leadership. So, Jim, welcome to the interview. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it too. It's great to get to know you and to, together kind of be impactful moving forward at a time that we really worry about what's going on and, how do we handle it. And, it's a, we talked about this a little bit. It's not an acute kind of situation, kind of like things we've had in the past. This is a chronic situation, and we really don't know where the end lies and what we should be thinking about or how we should handle it day to day. And it's funny, how should we handle it day to day? That's kind of how I handle it day to day. I think that's the best way. You can't look too much in the future, and you certainly can't look back and point fingers. So, I'm glad to be here. It's been great. I've had, like you said, I've had a bunch of experience on the side of both military, our military time, our shared military time, our shared experience, and then going forward with the Bureau, a wonderful career. And I don't mean that personally, but just with the people and the impact and the mission, and just being around the flag so often, getting the opportunity to help. And I appreciate you saying, run towards. And it's funny, I'm a career, my family is career service oriented. Brother who was in, dad who was in, a dad who then served as a fireman, later as a fire captain in the city of Newark, New Jersey. And it's funny, that's kind of their adage, right? Everybody else is running out of the burning building, and firemen are running in. So I learned that he instilled that in my brother and I both. At an early age, you run towards, you help if you can, smartly with common sense, but you help. And, so I appreciate you saying that. That definitely struck a chord and makes me feel really, really good, like we're in the right spot together helping people today. So thank you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no problem, Jim. One of the things I truly believe is that we belong at the eye of the storm. And when I say we, I mean leaders belong at the eye of the storm, because that's really where the people are in this case, and unfortunately we're in a high intensity, unknown duration fight. Unlike a firefight, if you were in combat, that's a short duration, high intensity, and you can recover. But man, the thing is, we're not even in a long duration. We're in an unknown. Oh man, when you think about it, unknown duration. So
true.
Yeah. Jim, we alluded to and mentioned it briefly, but what are some pinnacle highlights of your career, either in the military or in the FBI or in other things? I know you have your own company now too, J3 Global, where you do crisis management, which is awesome. What are some of your highlights of crisis management, things that you've been a part of over the years? If you wouldn't mind sharing maybe a couple of those.
Yeah, sure, definitely. Living in and working in this area, in the greater New York area, for most of my career with, some time left to go down to Washington, D.C. or overseas, most of my time was spent right here, close, 15, 20 miles as a crow flies from Manhattan, from the World Trade Center. So I look back and I think about, crisis and kind of what we learned along the way in the military, and then kind of, how you take that and kind of transpose that on a similar yet different type of organization or outfit. The Bureau, what was most shocking to me about the Bureau is I remember getting ready for Quantico to go forward, and the training was wonderful. But I remember a West Point classmate who was just short time before me had gone to Quantico. He said, when you get there, you'll pull up to the front and, you'll stop your car and there'll be guys and girls that'll come out and help you with your luggage. They'll take your luggage to your room and they treat you really professionally. So I was like, okay, I guess this is a joke. This is going to be a joke for me. And, they're going to be screaming and yelling because I'm going to expect them to come out and, take my stuff and be the concierge and the bagman and take it up to the room. And sure than hell, I pulled up in front of Quantico in front of the FBI Academy, and people came out and took my bags. Mr. DiOrio, welcome. It's good to have you here. And so
Wow.
different on that piece, but also so similar in that, you immediately become situationally aware of the people that are around you, how they handle themselves and the professional attitude that they have going forward. So many great people that I met and worked with. So when we look at crises, you always have that trust and that communication around you. And I think that's the most important thing today with what's going on right now. We're unsure. We're just not sure. We're hearing a bunch of different things. Many of us, try to look and evaluate and independently think about what we hear. And then we remember the last thing we heard. Many of us do that. What the Bureau and what the Army and with other, professionals that are listening or out there doing their thing, we kind of independently think about things and corroborate those things on our own so that we can be helpful moving forward as to what the situation actually looks like. And, I don't want people, I think the biggest thing is I want you to think about your day to day. I don't want you to think about what's going to be like in May or what's going to be like in June or July or August. There's no one that really knows how this is going to end or how it's going to culminate or how we're going to control it. What we can do is really think inside about what we can do to improve, our situational awareness, to improve our plan, to help people, as many people as we can, going forward. And the Bureau really allowed us to do that. And I guess one of the most striking examples that I had, obviously 9/11 is the one that most people think about, but I think about another situation that was publicized and in the news. And, I remember it was a September day, a few years back. One of my sons, my middle son was playing football at the time for Princeton. And it was their opening game. We were heading down to Princeton, about an hour ride. And I get a call from the ops center, and I'm running a major office at the time here. I get the call, and it's, hey, listen, there was a bombing in Seaside Heights.
Oh yeah.
At a road race, at a military base road race, and not sure if anybody's been injured. Not sure if we have a suspect. Not sure of anything. So what do we do, boss? And I feel like kind of we're in that same situation. There's a lot of people asking a lot of different bosses, what do we do, boss?
Yeah.
And, the problem there is you have a lot of different, angles, a lot of different answers, a lot of different pointed answers. And, my thought was always this, and the Army taught me this, and West Point taught me this: talk to the people. Talk to the people that work with you, for you, and above you, because someone out there is going to have the right approach. And it might not be you, even though you're the boss.
Right.
It might definitely not be you. So I remember thinking that, on the ride down to Seaside Heights. And before I got there, because of the way we had trained and because of the way we had drilled and because of the way we had thought about this situation, not this particular one, but a situation that we had dealt with overseas and here domestically. It was already, we already had a contact at the police department down there who we worked closely with through the years and built a liaison. We were able to set up a command center immediately.
Wow.
Get commo up, get computers up, call in all my people, because we had made plans as to, if this happens, you need to be there. You need to be ready. Disaster planning 101, which many companies, many individuals aren't doing now. They're not now. They're doing it, but they're thinking about it, 3 months ago. And before you know it, we had things up and running. We had leads being created. We had people making phone calls. I had agents out canvassing the scene. We were taking a look at videos, finding out who had videotape, talking to people, looking at the registration for the race, looking at what time it started, when it was supposed to start. Were there anything that happened along the way that kind of led to it being delayed or not, which is a saving grace because of the fact that their computers weren't working. People couldn't register on the spot, so they kept the race from starting at 9 a.m. Didn't start at 9:20, which saved tons of lives because the thing went off right at 9:05.
Wow.
So, along the way, all of those things and thinking about crisis at the time and thinking about what we could do better, what we could do going forward, even though we may have made a couple of early on decisions that weren't exactly the most expeditious decisions at the time, no one pointed fingers.
Mm.
No one looked back and said, why? You should have done this better. That's not the time to do that. The time now is not to point fingers, but it's to move forward.
Mm.
Move forward and work together, communicate, and think about what you can do to mitigate that crisis, to mitigate that situation. And obviously for us as Bureau, people and sworn law enforcement officers, we want to catch the bad guy. That's what it comes down to. And we did. Ultimately did in a shootout, up about 20 miles north of here. And we were able to get him. No one was injured. We had a few injuries in the New York and the Manhattan bombing. We had a couple at the other bombing in Edison. And we were able to catch him and move forward, all because of the fact that we had played this over in our minds. Again, not the specific situation, but a crisis. What happens in crisis? And the key is rolling it out, thinking about it, drilling, even yourself. And find myself doing it still to this day. I'll wake up in the morning and I'll lay there in bed and say, what happens if this were to happen today with this situation? What happens if I'm faced with this dilemma or this dynamic? What would I do? How would I handle it? Am I ready for it? Am I thinking about it? Are there signs? Are there different things that I should be reading or writing or people I should be talking to? So it's definitely something that's ingrained in you from our time at West Point, through the Army time, through the Bureau, and now I continue to do it, to this day. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
It just reminded so many points to draw out there, Jim. One thing I remembered, I'm sure you've seen these at least a handful of times. The Bourne Identity movies, of Jason Bourne.
Absolutely.
I'm reluctant to reference Hollywood, but I will. So when you mentioned, kind of analyzing things and thinking about what you would do in a certain situation or if this happens, there's this one scene where he's sitting in the diner, I think in the first movie, and he's like, that guy behind the bar can handle himself. There's a gun in that pickup truck, and at this altitude I can run for a flat out mile before my hands shake or something like that. So I mean, that's Hollywood glamorization, of that type of life. But I think very practically, you got to kind of think through things, right? So you don't find yourself sitting in the middle of something, not only, without a plan, but not even had given it any thought.
No doubt, Chris. And I think that's kind of what you can be doing for yourself, talking about how to kind of control yourself and to help yourself be more impactful for those around you, not just in your workplace or not just in your industry, but obviously it starts at home, right? It starts with the family because, I look around, like we talked about, I have 5 kids and a son-in-law, and, I think about who are the best coaches, who are the best role models in my life? Obviously my dad. My dad just is a hardworking guy, led by example, but he also had, a really, really keen sense of situational awareness. He kind of knew when things were up, and for a lot of reasons, for his background, for what he went through, for who he was. But I think that's important, looking around and building that air of confidence in your home. So, we have a 16-year-old home with us now, and I think about that all the time. And I remember a high school wrestling coach that I had. We one time asked him, "Hey, coach, we're out there and we're scrambling, and the crowd's going wild, and we're getting beat, and we look over at you, and you're just kind of not an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Why don't you get excited?" He said, "Because if you guys were to look over and see me upset and frantic and worried, it might rub off on you. So what I'm showing you is the serene, effect, the calmness. I have confidence in you. We've drilled for this. We've worked for this." So that's kind of what I would ask people to think about too. Are you portraying that piece at your home to start, and then with clients or with business or with coworkers or with whatever you're doing? It's important to think that way. And I look at a role model in the sports community, a guy like Cale Sanderson, the Penn State college coach. If you watch him, great, won 8 straight national championships, would have probably won a 9th year this year, and never gets excited. He just sits there. Why? Because he's prepared. Because he's done what he's supposed to be doing, and his team is ready. And I think we all can kind of learn from those situations. Be ready.
That's such a great point. I always like to think, what leaders do in moderation, their teams will do in excess. So if you're modeling frantic, kind of like compulsive type behavior and unsure, then even a leader in the home, your families are going to see that. The family's going to see that and kind of take that and run with it. And oh man, dad's nervous or mom's nervous, so therefore we must be. And you can kind of create stress just by that fact alone without really intending to.
No
So,
doubt. I mean, I think that's critical. It's one thing you should think about, and clearly we can control that. Not always
yeah.
easy. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's practiced and it's drilled. And I can remember thinking about that in crisis when we had situations in the bureau or even in the Army. We both had time in the Army, and there were some hairy situations. But it's the way you think about things. It's
Yeah.
the way you appear, and it's the way you provide that sense of confidence to those around you. And it's the same thing we can be doing now during this crisis. Again, it's an unsure situation. No one really knows, but
Yeah.
we do know that what we're doing now is working. It's causing us to have a better outcome day to day. And I think that's that's the way businesses and leaders and and I know we're talking about leadership, and I think that's what can be learned from leadership. Do I need, if I'm prepared for my company, industry, family, or friends, am I able to kind of provide that to those who maybe aren't as prepared or don't have the confidence to prepare themselves?
Yeah.
How do we do that? How does that look? And I think anyone's capable of doing that just by kind of becoming that person who thinks about different situations that a lot of us nobody wanted to think about a pandemic.
Yeah.
I did. I thought about it because that's my world. You thought
Right.
about it because that's your world, from our experience. And now there'll be a lot of people thinking and preparing, and I'm happy for that because I think it just makes us more effective, globally when we're thinking about things like this.
Absolutely. My hope is, in the after effects of this pandemic, that we channel that attentiveness in a productive way instead of two interviews ago. I interviewed a guy, talked about fear and how fear can perpetuate after this time to where we're not even shaking hands anymore and we're afraid to pick stuff up. But I think you just brought up the opposite side of that. So we can take this as a learning experience and then increase our overall situational awareness. So in the future, we're not as surprised maybe when crisis comes again, because it will, right? I mean, in your experience, unfortunately, we're going to go through something again in our lifetimes, I'm sure. So,
No doubt, man. And I think that's for me. I've lived my life one after another.
yeah,
So I've never been able to kind of back off and say, "Wow, I'm in a free and clear period." I guess in retirement I am, but the mission I chose to continue, privately through this business is the exact same thing, and I'm okay with that. And you bring up a great point about fear, and there's a famous writer out there that wrote a great book called The Gift of Fear,
mm,
and it's true. Fear is a gift when it comes to situational awareness
yeah,
because it helps you. You have to listen to that gut feeling. You have to listen to when the hair goes up on the back of your neck. Obviously, it doesn't go up on the back of my neck, but you really have to pay attention to that.
mm,
And I've kind of preached and taught my kids that sense, and you can see it as they get older. And we go from 31 down to 16, and
mm,
you can see as they get older they start to develop that sense. Maybe that's not a good idea to do that, or hey, I should really think about that. And I think that's the way we have to be thinking now. Is to
yeah,
utilize what we're all afraid of. We're all thinking, is this, am I going to know someone who has this? And is it going to be a terrible situation for them and for us together? Or, am I not going to, but I'm going to think about maybe the next time if it comes back, or what's going to happen? How will I handle myself? Will I be ready and prepared? I
mm,
think that drives you, in a way, to stay
yeah,
ready, to stay prepared, to plan for that worst case situation. You know,
absolutely.
we can only
Hope for the best, though, right? And
I hope the best. And I think we've got a lot of those people that are doing that, that
yeah,
are planning and going and doing great things, and I was mentioning the other day, like some of the people that I've run into, some clients that I've run into that are not letting this paralyze them, not letting it cripple them. They're just going out and staying essential, man.
mm,
From the pizza guy right up to the CEO of 7-Eleven and everybody in between,
yeah,
they're just getting out, not letting it stop them, and taking precautions, obviously, because I think that's important too.
hmm.
Um, but at the same time, making a difference, staying impactful, and that's great. I love to see that, and I seek out those stories and those phone calls, and so it's good.
I've been following you a little bit on social media, and I've seen some stuff about Joe DePinto at 7-Eleven. Of course, leading by example, going out to meet the people where they are, reassuring, very calm. Great display of leadership there in Mr. DePinto. I'm sure you would agree.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Joe's a dear friend and a classmate, and what you see is what you get. He's like that
Yeah,
across the board, in friendship and in business. And
mm,
I look at the way he sets the example, and it doesn't just come from today, starting today. I mean, here's a guy who communicates with everyone, from the top down, and everyone knows him. Everyone respects him. They understand the mission, and so when it comes to this piece, they know they've got that Cale Sanderson sitting in their corner.
yeah,
They know they're going to be successful because of the fact that Joe has talked about that. He's led that way. Servant leadership,
mm,
the most important piece, and I think that's why you're seeing him portraying that, showing that, so others can draw that strength and
yeah.
say, "Wow, look at that! This is amazing." It's
Mm.
good stuff. It really is, and I'm proud of him. Obviously he's doing wonderful things. Wonderful things.
It's
So.
encouraging to see. Yeah, every time I see something, referencing him and some other folks, it's encouraging. Hey, Jim, let me ask you something. So in the middle of this storm, so to speak, that we're in, I think based on some of the things you're saying about being calm as a leader and kind of taking things day by day and situational awareness, if you're able to be in that space, at least mentally, do you see this time as a training ground as well? So we're in the storm. Maybe a company, a CEO or senior leader at a company can take on some junior leaders and kind of walk them through the process of navigating the storm. Do you see it as a training ground?
Oh, absolutely. And I think about that a lot as to using this time that we obviously never expected, you know,
Yeah,
to happen this way, but so much time to really reflect and to bring others in and to mentor, and to share your great experience, because we have so many incredible leaders, incredible people that are running organizations so effectively, so efficiently, with compassion, with intelligence, and understanding what their mission is, kind of what their why is. And I think it is time. I mean, I think it is time to take those people in and to draw out those people that you see, those leaders, those young leaders, those aspiring leaders who maybe remind you of yourself, and jump in and say, hey, let's talk about this, or drill them. I, One of the approaches that I take in my business is I drill people, and what I mean by that is, I kind of put them in the situation as best I can, as
right.
best I can. And sometimes it's hard to do that, but sometimes it's not. If you put the right people in the spot, maybe that they weren't used to being in, hey, that's not my job. I'm not going to do this. So we do it a lot with corporate clients, bring a situation to them and say, what would you do? You're
Yeah,
it. Nope, you can't call that person. No, that person's out for the day. That person's sick.
yeah,
What would you do? How would you handle it? And it's amazing how they step up to the plate, how they answer the bell, and then they remember that,
yeah,
and when you do have the real situation, they remember it, they understand how to do it and why they're going to do it and what the effect will be on themselves and others. I think I mentioned the other day that there's a gentleman here locally in Monmouth County, New Jersey, who runs a pizzeria. And this guy, not for any advertisement or marketing ploy or anything more than just wanting to be that servant leader for his employees, many of whom have been with him for 20 and 30 years. And he had made a statement back a few months ago, before this got as bad as it is. He had said, if anything happens, and to his employees, if anything happens here, don't you worry. I'll take a line of credit on this business before I'll let you not have a paycheck.
Wow.
And he's done that.
Wow.
He's done that. And, put himself out there financially at a time when it's unsure.
Yep.
But he had thought about that. He had realized the importance of relationships and the importance of taking care of your people and taking care of your friends. And so he's done that. And of course, what happens counterintuitively when, things are going bad in the food industry and you're not sure if you're going to be able to keep your restaurant open or what you're going to do? Well, he's become a guy now that I want to go, I want to go there. I want to order. I'll drive the extra 15 miles now. And we have to make sure that, he's taken care of, because he's shown that leadership. He's shown the ability to stay essential at a time when it wasn't all that favorable. It didn't look all that great for his industry. And so thinking outside the box a little bit, thinking about, what he's done for young employees there. Hey, they're thinking to themselves, all right, if this ever happened, man, I'm going to take care of my people. That's the first thing I'm going to think about is them. And I think it's important, especially with these our kids and the generation that our kids are in. They don't have those. I was thinking about it last night. We're on Easter. We couldn't get together. We just had our youngest with us, and we're all on a Zoom conference, and everybody's in their block. But it was great. It was great. It was different, but it was great.
Right.
And I'm watching them all interact and talk and laugh and tell stories, and I'm like, it's really no difference than sitting around the dining room table. It's just that we're not going to be able to hug and kiss when we're done, but we will again. We're just doing that now. So, that's kind of that's so encouraging to me about, thinking about how we can be different, but at the same time be just as impactful, just as effective, just as essential,
Man, great example, Jim. Amongst all the negativity and the pessimism and just the stuff that's spread around, it's nice to hear stories about that pizza owner, that's putting his business behind his people and really just leading from the front on that. That's awesome.
Absolutely, man.
So I'm hearing a theme here across just about everything you've shared today, Jim, and that's it's about the people. Keep the enemy. Don't fight each other in the home. Don't fight each other at the business. Let's remember who the true enemy is. It's the pandemic that's attacking our way of life and our freedoms in many ways. Set the example for the people to follow, so they can carry it forth and duplicate it. So a positive example, putting people first. It's no surprise, Jim, that you've had a lifetime of service, military, and then FBI, and then in your own, and now in private industry. But your own company is centered around serving others. So it's been a treasure hearing some of your insights about crisis. If you could sum it up into a handful, or maybe 1 to 3, maybe some takeaways, just some applicable things that people can do even without much thought, just kind of apply it to their life. What would those hard takeaways be?
I think the key is communication and optimism. Talk to your family, talk to your people. Keep it open. That's simple. Try to do that every day. You may have to at first set some time aside to do that. Especially now we have so much time that we have little time.
Yeah.
We don't really think about, monitoring. And my wife does it best. She sets a timer, literally sets a timer, an hour I'm going to spend doing this. And that's what she does. So set some time aside to do those things that are important, and what I mean is talking to people, and pick up the phone and talk to somebody, call somebody that you haven't talked to in a while. Now you have the time, you have no excuse, right? So I think the other thing is putting yourself in this situation, drilling, mentally thinking about things. It could be family. What would happen if, my mom got sick? What would happen if my dad got sick? What would happen if an aunt or an uncle or a grandparent or a child got sick? How would I handle that? What would that look like? How would I get to the hospital? How would I call my doctor? How would I make that happen? Or on the other side, the opposite side of that, what happens if my neighbor gets sick and they can't get out? They can't do something and they need things. How would I handle that? What would I do? And at the same time, you can translate that to what you do as a leader in your business. Thinking about how many of my people are out there? Is there a better way to schedule them? Can I help them in a certain way? So I think that way. I think about all those things, and then improve your situational awareness, uh, improve the way you think, how you look at things, challenge yourself, do some reading, do some meditating, do some thinking about what you can do better, and obviously take care of yourself. Take care of yourself now. It's important, because you're really no good to anyone if you're sick, tired, or negative, or frustrated, or pessimistic. You're not really, or depressed. I know, listen, I worry about, mental health issues, and we have close members of the family that suffer from that. And, I think about that, but get that help. Don't, continue to get the help, continue to talk to your therapist, and to people, and to your family. It doesn't mean that's the end of that. It's time now to do it more than ever. So that's my thoughts. And I wanted to say one more thing. And, J3 Global, a lot of people ask me about J3. What's J3? And obviously my name's Jim, so they immediately think of that, and they're right. But, the J3 in the military, we know, Joint Operations Command. And, I always thought I wanted to kind of stay consistent, but you got to be careful about naming things after West Point. Like my buddy Terry Finley, West Point Thoroughbreds, had to go through, my classmate buddy, he had to go through a whole bunch of rigmarole to be able to name it that. But, whatever, it got to have it on his website. So what is J3? So here's what I think about, right? Here's what it is. So Jim DiOrio is the one J. So John McHugh is the second J. So John McHugh is my classmate, my childhood friend, who passed in Afghanistan in 2010, fighting the mission, fighting the battle. We've started the Johnny Mac Soldiers Fund on his behalf. So he's the second J. And then the third J is Jim Martello. And Jim Martello is my wife Sheila's deceased husband, who died in the towers in 9/11.
Wow.
So that's what inspires me going forward, is those three J's. And I joke around once in a while with Sheila, and I'll say to her, I've been doing all this work, taking all these calls, generate my own leads, doing my own paperwork, doing everything, getting out meet. Those two other J's, they're not doing much. And you know what she says to me all the time? They're doing it all. And, she makes sense. They're watching out and making sure that things go right. So, find that inspiration in yourself. Now's the time to do that. Like I said, just stay upbeat. We're definitely going to get through this. It might not look exactly the same when we're done, but it's going to be pretty darn close, so keep that in mind. And I wish everybody the best. And, I'm here if anybody needs me. So love to talk and do whatever. So I appreciate your time, Chris. You're doing some wonderful things and bringing so many great things to light through leadership and what you're doing. And it's important to me. And, you're one of my kind of guys, and I appreciate that. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Jim. Pleasure's been mine. Thank you so much. And thank you for explaining the meaning of your company. That makes it much more impactful for me now that I realize that, selflessly including those gentlemen in the name, and it's a daily driver for you. That's in keeping with what I've known of you in this short time that we've met and got to know each other. Hey, for those of you listening, I'd love to share some more ways to get a hold of Jim, so you can reach out to him directly if you like. Again, his company, the letter J, 3 as in the number 3, j3global.com is his website, j3global.com. And then his email, jdiorio, that's jdiorio, jdiorio at j3global.com. Also, his cell phone, not many leaders are willing to throw out their cell phone. I respect him for that. So I'll go ahead and put it out there, 732-609-6473. Again, 732-609-6473. Reach out to Jim. As you can see, he's got a ton of experience, and even more important in this day and age, a heart to help other people. So, Jim, it's been a pleasure. You're a officer and a gentleman, sir. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Chris. The pleasure's been mine. And stay healthy, stay safe, please.
You do the same. Your family and your circle, wish them the best.
Likewise. Thank you.